The tiny silver leg of a vintage capacitor is a fickle beast, thinner than angel hair pasta and about as stubborn as a cat in a Halloween costume. One slip, one tremor from the garage door, and you've fried a piece of 1980s history that you can only replace by scouring eBay for another broken VCR from a guy who smells like mothballs and sadness. That was my zen, you know? My little sacred space. I'm hunched over my workbench, trying not to breathe too hard, when Sarah appears in the doorway, laundry basket perched on her hip. "Mark, are you building a tiny city in here?" There's something about her tone, totally reasonable, and yet so far off the mark it almost makes me laugh. "It's not a city, it's a cathedral," I mumble, squinting down my soldering iron like I'm defusing a bomb. A cathedral of clicks and clacks. This, my love, is the motherboard for a custom keyboard that will one day make typing sound like a summer hailstorm on a tin roof. She steps around a gutted Commodore 64 with the grace of someone who's seen it all before. Right? Well, the parishioners of St. Mark the Tinkerer are about to be excommunicated by a rogue Hoover. I need to get to the vacuum. She finally locates the thing behind a pile of PC cases and gives me that look. The one that's love, exasperation, and maybe a pinch of awe. "I love you, Mark. But if your midlife crisis spills over one more square foot of this garage, I'm calling a hazmat team." She's not wrong. Every time I start a new project, I have to move old projects around. Like playing Jenga where the loser gets a mild electric shock. "I need a workshop," I say, setting my soldering iron down with the gravity of a confessional. "A sanctuary. With a door. A shed. Sarah. A glorious, simple shed. My own space to mess up, to spill solder, to blast 80s rock, and not get roped into cleaning the good towels." I could almost smell the pine already. Whispering pines. Our neighborhood is the kind of suburb where even the grass seems afraid to step out of line. The perfect place for a shed, at least I thought so. You ever forget about the dragon until you see the scorch marks? Yeah, I forgot about the HOA, and more specifically about its high priest, Preston Ainsworth III. If you ever wanted a villain for a story about lawn conformity, Preston's your guy. Tall, thin, always in a sweater, eyes scanning for violations like he's auditioning for the IRS. Last summer, he fined me $50 for my garden gnome being non-compliant with seasonal festive decorum. In July, Bartholomew the gnome, with his little fishing rod, is a year-round resident. So I should have known the shed would become an issue, but hope springs eternal, right? The very next day, buried in the mail between pizza coupons and pre-approved credit cards, I find the cream-colored envelope with the HOA's gold-embossed logo, 2 pine trees whispering about your sins. Sarah peers over my shoulder. "Oh, that looks official." I open it up, trying to keep my blood pressure down. "Dear residents, following a comprehensive review of our aesthetic standards, blah blah, effective immediately, the installation, construction, or placement of any new sheds is indefinitely prohibited." I stopped reading. The air in the kitchen thickened. Sarah dropped the towel. "They what?" "They banned sheds." I stare at the paper, hoping it'll change. Existing sheds are grandfathered in, but any new one gets a $100 a day fine. $100 a day for a dream. I start pacing, rage turning my ears hot. "Harmonious visual landscape," I shout. Preston's idea of harmony is a beige parking lot. This is about control. It's tyranny by laminate. Sarah tries to calm me, but I'm already plotting my next move. "There's a meeting on Tuesday. I'm going." The HOA clubhouse looks like a DMV staffed by people whose only hobby is enforcing the exact shade of grage. Dave, my neighbor, sits beside me. Big guy, loves mowing his lawn and griping about Preston. He's my partner in crime. A few rows up, Mrs. Gable, who just wants a greenhouse for her orchids, sits quietly. Preston stands at the podium, his PowerPoint loaded with pictures of the world's ugliest sheds, claiming outbuildings threaten property values and visual harmony. When the floor opens, I jump in. "With all due respect," which is about as much as I have for HOA harmony, "you're banning sheds because you don't like how a few of them look?" Preston, ever the shark, just smiles that cold, predator smile. "We're protecting everyone's investment. A cluttered yard is an eyesore." I fire back. "Your flamingo mailbox is a crime against nature, Preston. But I don't see a ban on tasteless mailboxes." Nervous laughter. The vote's a joke. Preston's cronies nod along. The ban passes. My dream is dead. Or is it? That night, scrolling for storage solutions, I stumble on an ad. Used shipping containers for sale. Heavy duty, affordable, weatherproof. I freeze. I grab the HOA rulebook and hunt for loopholes. There it is, the bylaw bans permanent structures and sheds, but says nothing about temporary industrial containers. When Sarah hears the plan, she's horrified. Then she starts laughing. You want to park a shipping container in our backyard? Technically, I say, it's not a building. It's equipment. The order goes in for a 40-foot high cube model, and a week later, Gus and Kyle roll up with my steel behemoth. It takes a 100-ton crane to get the thing in. The whole neighborhood turns out to watch. Even Preston, arms crossed and purple with rage. Before the dust settles, Preston marches across the lawn waving his bylaws, demanding to know what this abomination is. I lean against the container, grin, and stamp the grass. No foundation. Temporary. It's legal. Preston sputters. Dave slow claps from his porch, and phase 1 is complete. My victory is short-lived. The next morning, the thing looks like a beached industrial whale. Sarah's right. It's an eyesore. But I'm not beaten yet. We'll turn it into art. We'll paint a Bob Ross landscape on the side, facing Preston's house. Operation Happy Little Accident is on. We paint. We laugh. We curse at the grooves. And by Sunday, the whole neighborhood's involved. It's not great art, but it's unmistakably cheerful. The Bob Ross Freedom Box is born. Then come the fines. Preston mails a new $100 invoice. Every day, I fight back with pedantic letters, attaching photos of our aesthetic harmony. The story becomes neighborhood legend. By week 2, we owe $1,400, and Sarah's worried. I almost cave. Almost. Until Mr. Henderson, my cranky old neighbor, shows up. Turns out, he's fought this battle before. He hands me a copy of the subdivision's master deed from 1978. Every homeowner gets one. Auxiliary structure up to 500 square feet as a legal right. Preston's ban is illegal. At the emergency HOA meeting, standing room only, I hand out copies of the real deed. Mrs. Gable, Dave. The whole crowd turns. Henderson stands up, booming that the master deed trumps any little handbook. Preston's checkmate becomes a faceplant. The vote to lien my house is forgotten, replaced by a vote of no confidence in Preston himself. He loses, big. A few months later, the view from my window hasn't changed, but the feeling sure has. Preston's gone, replaced by Mrs. Gable, who rescinds the ban. Whispering Pines is dotted with new greenhouses and sheds, and my container is now the local Wall of Serenity, even marked on Google Maps. Dave organizes an art fair out front. Sarah brings me a beer, surveys the workshop, and says, "Promise me next time you fight City Hall, we start smaller?" No promises, I say, grinning at my sanctuary, my fortress, my happy little rebellion in a box. But hey, sometimes you have to fight for your right to store obsolete junk. The view's not bad, you know? And somewhere, I'm pretty sure, Bartholomew the Gnome is smiling. So, tell me, was I right to stand my ground, or was Preston just protecting the neighborhood? Comment below. I want to hear your war stories. Would you have done the same? Where's the line between harmony and control? Let's argue it out, because, you know what I mean, that's the real fun in all of this.